So, one of the funnier things this week that's happened is Reform are being met with the opposition that they thought would never happen. And this kind of contains such examples as Zach Polanski reading a poem from the late, great Benjamin Zephaniah, excellent, black liberation activist, anarchist, made a great poem about immigration in Britain, about how it's all a melting pot, stuff like that. So Zach Polanski is just reading that poem in memory of Benjamin Zephaniah and also against all the fascist rhetoric that we're seeing all over the news, all over the UK at the moment. Zia Yusuf took to Twitter to be like, you can see that this is exactly how all the left views the people of Britain, just as ingredients in a pot to be stirred around. And it's like, right, okay, so you don't understand poems, all right? That's the first thing. You don't get poems. Secondly, the second thing that happened was he got called a fascist directly to his face. I think we spoke about this on the last Red Planet Live, but Zia Yusuf got called a fascist directly to his face on Question Time by Zach Polanski. I think it might be the first time that a Reform candidate has ever been called a fascist, or a far-right fascist politician has been called a fascist on television, on BBC television. The entire audience exploded. They were all clapping. It's like people were like, oh my God, thank God. Like, we're absolutely, desperate to hear something like this, because there's just been no pushback to any of these fucking freaks for such a long time. And then Zia Yusuf today posted on Twitter a big, the siren emoji being like, the Green Party now have more members than the Tory Party. And it's like, oh, you're really scared. You actually don't know what to do. You have no idea what to do. You've tried saying that he's weird, that he's a bit creepy, that he doesn't understand what a woman is, but no one cares. There's loads of members joining the Green Party. There's loads of scandals coming out with Reform councillors all over the UK. And he's just being like, oh no! So there you go.
It's so fucked. I was reading something on the Liberal Slop stream this week, because we were looking into Helen Lewis, who's like a TERF who wants to present herself as really moderate and whatever, while saying like biological males and all this kind of shit that's just like Ferengi ass loser shit, that everyone can see you're a TERF immediately. But she's like, I'm not as extreme as Graham Linehan or whatever. And she was talking about, she wrote this article called the Gaza left and the gender left, about how these two groups have different values and they can't possibly get along. And it was basically about all the Hussein stuff from your party and the blow up there. And so the first kind of magic trick she pulled was like sleight of hand, making the whole collapse of your party, all the bullshit, all of the backstabbing, all of the rat fucking. Apparently that was all because of gender. That was all gender's fault. Because they were all got together to support Gaza, right? But then one of them was a transphobe, and one of them's a woke trans activist, and that's a serious problem. And that, which is just like, fuck off. But then she got down to the Greens, right? And she spent such a long time talking about, Ali, the second in command, the deputy, I think, of the Greens, and he's a Muslim, right? And he was asked about trans issues, and he didn't say trans rights are human rights, a trans woman is a woman, right? He didn't say like the bangers, the classics, the catchphrases, the soundbite one. He said, a lot of cultures in the East had a different relationship to gender before colonization, which is actually like a much stronger position coming in as an ally. Like if the topic of being trans came up, and I was at the function, I'm at the cisgender function. It's mostly cis people, and several people there go, well, a trans woman is a woman. I feel like they're saying that with a gun to their head. But if a guy there, if I met a Muslim guy there, and the topic came up among everyone, and he was like, well, yeah, like gender, like the cisgender binary is a construct enforced by like Christian, Protestant, capitalist patriarchy, I'd be like, this fucking guy. Like, I'm spending the rest of the evening with this guy. But according to Helen Lewis, right, because he's a Muslim, cannot possibly agree with trans issues,
Nah, there's no
which
way.
is definitely a Muslim problem and not a Helen Lewis being a racist problem. But yeah, everyone's. My point was yes, everyone's losing their mind about the Greens. It's really fucking cool to see, and I think it speaks to a sort of hilarious inverse of the silent majority, like all this QAnon MAGA shit where they were like, everyone agrees with us, but they just haven't said it yet. But it's like we know there's a huge population of people who feel completely insane looking at politics, like how much politicians are just denying our observable reality. And those are the people clapping and cheering when Zach Polanski calls a reform guy a fascist or says, yes, a woman can have a penis. And probably the biggest problem she has is waiting for the NHS to remove it. Like just banger after
Yep.
banger. Oh, so it's Red Planet. Welcome everyone. We're going to start the show like we always do by asking what was the most based thing you did this week, Mule.
I have been involved in trying to heal some community wounds. There has been a huge rift in the activist space in Manchester, which is extremely unfortunate. I'm not exactly at the center of it, but I'm not exactly at the periphery either. I know a lot of the people involved. And it is a huge case of people being completely unable to sit down and have a conversation about really difficult things. I was actually at a party with a really good friend last night. I won't mention her name because I don't know if she wants me to do that. But she said to me, one of the most frustrating things that is a super middle class thing to do is that everybody just kind of like gets up and leaves whenever there's a really difficult conversation to have. And all the working class people are left there either like being excluded or desperately trying to like fix this shit because we know that it's necessary to do. So yeah, I've been chatting to a couple of people who have been trying to arrange chats with people. I've been chatting to a couple of people who've been trying to arrange mediations with people and offering my support and offering my help and stuff. And you know, this is the thing, right? It's like, you know, what's the most base thing that you did this week? Well, I was forced actually. I didn't choose to do this. I've been forced. That's not true, actually. That sounds really bad. In a way, it's been forced, but in a way, it's something that I know is necessary to do. When I say being forced, it's more to do with what I was saying before, that like middle class people just decide to like get up and leave and don't want to deal with this difficult shit. So you know, here we are trying to pick up the pieces kind of thing. But yeah, so that's that. And I think it's a really important part of organizing is actually just sitting down and having conversations with people and, you know, trying to work through really difficult stuff. And just getting to an end point of, you know, okay, you're really unhappy with this person, you're really unhappy with this person. That's all established. Now, what do we do? You know, because that's the key thing that's missing from a lot of these conversations is that people are just like not having a conclusion about it. The conclusion is like, no, we're gonna keep being this belligerent to each other forever, and it's like that's unsustainable. That's gonna kill people. You're gonna kill people doing that.
Some people are like, we'll keep on doing this until the other side just disappears completely from the face of the earth. And the other
Yeah.
side is like, we'll keep doing this. We'll hold off until we can have the perfect process to fix this where no one feels bad even for a second. And neither of those is helping.
No, it's not gonna happen. So yeah, that's that. But that's the most basic thing that I've done this week. I've not really done much activism. I've had a bit of a week off. I've not been streaming, and I've just been playing RimWorld pretty much all week. So that's that. But Soph, what is the most basic thing that you've done this week?
Mostly rest and recuperation. I talked about recently I was excluded from a trans and feminist coalition because of an ongoing harassment campaign against me in the community. It's really bummed me out. I've been trying to take care of myself, bounce back from it, just feel okay because it's obviously like after a massive like ostracization, very like triggering to experience being shut out of stuff again, especially when it contributes to like an ongoing carceral situation where I just can't kind of be in society. Thanks, everyone. It's a bummer, but I still got out and did a hub shift. We are just mostly doing inventory, taking stock and inventory management for the move because the hub is moving to a new location where we expect that we're going to get higher foot traffic, which is really cool if that happens because we want to obviously help the maximum number of people that we can. I also had the hub shift right after my therapy, which I think I'm going to avoid doing in future because I spent like the first hour of it just like like just like I've been thinking about trauma too much. Yep, that's been my week really. Nat came to visit. That was chill. Had a nice time there. That's been my week. But we want to know what based things you have been doing, the audience. So you can message us on various social medias, just anywhere that we are, or you can send an email to based@redplanetshow.com. Include your name and pronouns. If you're cool with that, tell us about what it is you've been doing, and we may shout out in a later episode. Or this has happened before. We may hear from you, and it's so cool that we eventually end up having you interviewed on the show. But moving on from our based weeks, Mule, can you tell us about some people who are never based, which is the perfect confluence of the worst guys, fash football fans, and Israelis.
Yeah, it's the nightmare blunt rotation of hell. We were talking earlier quite briefly about the fact that the establishment being legacy media and UK politicians are desperately trying to gaslight the public into thinking that fascist policy is very popular and it's really popular to be fascist, and that's just the way the country's going, so you might as well vote for one of the fascist parties. And it's just so out of touch, it's just completely not representative of how people feel in the UK, the majority population. And this is a great example of that. This is the British establishment imploding over Maccabi Tel Aviv fans being banned from a game between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Aston Villa in Birmingham later on in November this year. So West Midland Police announced earlier this week that the vile supporters of Zionist Maccabi Tel Aviv Football Club would not be permitted to attend the match between them and Aston Villa on November the 9th. This was down to a collection of things, including a popular petition brought by Ayub Khan, one of the independent MPs who is part of your party, and he brought that to Birmingham Council, and there has been a risk assessment done by West Midlands Police. This has been met with the loudest outcry I've personally seen about any kind of anti-Zionist action, with multiple statespeople and legacy media pundits claiming that it is the wrong decision and amounts to anti-Semitism, making Jewish people feel unsafe, etc., etc. The UK government has now demanded that West Midlands Police reverse the decision, with Keir Starmer taking to Twitter to denounce the ban. The police appear to be in utter confusion over this outcry, as it's a result of normal risk assessments made by looking at football violence and previous experience of football fans from particular clubs. Crimes that they've committed, if they've been convicted or if they've been reported, or evidence and stuff like that. Crazy. The police do a little bit of that sometimes. Obviously, ACAB forever, but this is just the facts of the reality. And it's a thing that's plagued Britain for decades, football-related violence. So it's something that the police have like a wealth of experience in terms of institutionally. They have a memory on like how to deal with this. And it's like, yeah, let's just ban Maccabi Tel Aviv because they're psycho-fascists who do pogroms, right? So nevertheless, the establishment has been completely obsessed with this issue for the last 5 days. It's been a major feature on most daytime TV shows and news broadcasts. In a cynical discovery, the outcry is being fueled by Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, a Zionist lobbying group in the UK who are connected deeply in the current UK government, particularly with John Mann, a Labour lord, who recently stole journalist Owen Jones's microphone and ran off with it after being mildly questioned over the genocide in Gaza at the recent Labour Party conference.
Big man maneuvers.
Huge, big John Mann maneuvers. He was just being mildly questioned over the genocide in Gaza at the Labour Party conference, and he's been saying that he will be heading an investigation into anti-Semitism as a result of this ban. Even more perplexing is the fact that the Home Office were made aware of the ban weeks ago. So the outcry is either very clearly the Israel lobby getting a hold of the information after the government were made aware of it and going sicko mode at them, and Keir Starmer's cabinet desperately trying to claw back relations with the lobby, or another example of the government's sheer incompetence when it comes to matters of literally running the country, even in the way that they want it to be run, like in super support of Israel and any kind of weird fucking freak, rapist, paedophile supporters that are Zionists that come to watch football in this country. So it's a completely bizarre position for the government and establishment media to take, given Maccabi Tel Aviv's infamy all over Europe with chants such as the rape song that is, yes, explicitly, literally about raping people they don't like. Read Palestinians and their supporters. If you want to, our viewers should be able to actually see the lyric. Okay, I've just been told that Conrad is not putting the lyrics to that song up on the screen, even though I included it as part of the notes. But yeah, you can find the lyrics to that if you like. It will be linked in the description. You can also find it on Twitter. It's the account called @I Really Hate You. He's like a prominent anti-Zionist Israeli, and he obviously translated the song from Hebrew. So they have songs like that, they have chants like that, and countless examples of them attempting pogroms whenever they see one brown person. Overall, what we're witnessing is one of the most out-of-touch establishment minorities of all time making apologies for this psycho-fascist, rape-obsessed gang of football hooligans. In polls taken since the outcry, the majority of people in the UK support the ban, and a large section of those polled said they didn't have enough information to know whether they supported it or not. A small minority did not support the ban. There's already been an interview on GB News that went terribly for the pro-Zionist hosts when a guest repeatedly mentioned the realities of Maccabi fans' grim obsession with rape and murder, and the hosts could barely defend their positions. As a result, we can only expect to see more examples of this as the weeks go on, and the question remains, how long can Keir Starmer expect to survive as PM of this country with such a low opinion and approval rating, with such scandals as accepting bribes, putting Peter Mandelson into the position of US ambassador despite knowing the links between him and Jeffrey Epstein, and now making direct apologies for this sickening football hooligan fascist gang. So that's that. Yeah, it's been absolutely fucking crazy making, like absolutely bizarre stuff. Just all the weird sickos, Piers Morgan being like, this is anti-Semitic, just let these fans watch football, just let these little small bean, rape-obsessed, murder football hooligans, just let them watch the game. Like, it's just so racist to not let these rape-obsessed, murder psychos watch their game. It's just so crazy making. And it's like, if any establishment media discussion panel show had anyone who has like a tiny bit of knowledge about Maccabi Tel Aviv fans onto the show, it would be a bloodbath. Like, there'd just be no way that anyone who is pro this position of the ban is bad would be able to stand up to this scrutiny, because it's just so clearly obvious. So yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Soph. I don't know if this is the first.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely struck me when you said, like, the government has a long history of like trying to combat football hooliganism. It's not just like a buzzword in British politics. It's like it has shaped when football matches happen, what businesses can be open around football matches, when alcohol is sold around football matches, but also kind of in general in the UK. Like, there's an entire complex around it to do with like suppressing members of the groups in the working class who are historically really fashy and likely to kick off. I think there's historical precedent with Millwall. I live nearby a sort of Millwall area. They're like the fasciest club in the UK, and it's like there's simply so much precedent for the UK saying, we're worried this particular group of football hooligans is especially bad and will lead to a massive public order problem. And when you look at the Maccabees, it's kind of the most cut and dry you could imagine that situation being. Just like, yep, these guys are just the most evil possible people, and they will attack like British football fans. Like, there's absolutely no doubt. If they came in and played like Man U or any other club with like even a little bit of a left leaning and an anti-fascist presence and a tendency to fly Palestine flags. Firstly, that club will show up 50,000 times more pro-Palestine than you've ever seen them before. And secondly, the Maccabees will try to batter them. And thirdly, it will be on their home turf, so they will absolutely get turned to red mist. And then it'll be Manchester's fault. And that's not
Yes.
fair, is it? So just ban them. Just don't even send them.
It's crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree any like more. You're absolutely spot on. So yeah, that's that, and I guess we'll keep you updated. I guess tune into the Red Planet show after November the 9th, and we'll see what fucking happened. So tell us about what is happening at the moment in the UK with trans rights.
Yeah, sure. It's never great news, is it? Like it would be cool to see us making progress. I will reiterate at the top and the bottom of this story. I think the main way we could make a difference is by having public trans assemblies. I have a video coming out about this soon. I've been making organizing efforts to try and make this happen. Um, but for the time being, I think it's just going to be more of Britain a quite uniquely transphobic specific country. Like specifically, Britain hates trans people just like so much more than any comparable country. Um, but things have been back and forth this week. It's kind of like in the absence of any real opposition, it's not, I think, because a win for our people in it's just the turf project and the anti-trans project kind of not knowing where to go and things getting a bit bizarre for them. So let's walk through it. Firstly, we have Shabana Mahmood tells Council of Europe that human rights conflict with common sense. This is a fucked one. So this is firstly like a lot of people have been calling her a fascist, and I just want to say I think we can explain all of her motivations from within center left liberalism as it currently exists. And secondly, you don't have to call her a fascist. You can just say draw your eyebrows on better if you're going to come after the dolls. That's all. So she told the Council of Europe this week that oh no, sorry, this was actually earlier in the year. She told the Council of Europe that the project of anti-trans politics in the UK is much more important than human rights. That this is that there has been an eroding of public trust in the law and in international law conventions as human rights conventions produce results that people find confusing, which is just like using is the most insulting like puppetry of a hypothetical working class people to say like working class person to say like working class people are too dumb for them to understand like woke academic high-minded human rights changes like a trans woman being allowed in a woman's toilet. And it's like no, the reality of that is someone who's very obviously a woman being in a space for women and there's no problem at all. And this invocation of common sense, I think, is really striking because when Trump was brought in for his second inauguration, he said, "This is the revolution of common sense." And I think that this is what I mean that you can explain it from the liberal point of view because these people are trying to chase the right because they think that's where the Overton window has gone. They have no model for like dialectical materialism, no model of revolution and how people get radicalized in both directions when they're seeking change. Um, and so they're just trying to find common ground with the fash to win back voters off them, right? Similarly, she was also talking about migrants and migration uh, to the UK as an example of where human rights is maybe going a bit too far. Um, but yeah, between trans people and migrants, it's hard to believe sometimes the government hates any group. One of the groups is one I'm in, just like this much. They hate us this much that they're like, we're gonna leave the Human Rights Convention. Um, but this also like completely aligns with a goal that the Conservatives have been explicitly stating. Think tanks, some Conservative MPs for decades now, is to leave the Human Rights Convention so that they can do whatever they want with Britain. And now check it out, the Labour government wants to do it. Um, so now we get onto the EHRC, which has been the stuff that's most especially this week, right? So we've got this conflict between the acronyms here are really annoying. Sorry. There's the European Court of Human Rights, the ECHR, and there's the UK's Equalities and Human Rights uh, Commission. Yes, Commission, which is the EHRC. So the EHRC put out guidance earlier this year, which is basically just banning trans people from public life. It's absolutely horrific, but it's not legal guidance. It's not actually like uh, being attempted to be enforced yet. And as we know, as we've been reporting, they're trying to get Equalities Minister Bridget Phillipson to push through a legally binding version of this as soon as possible. And that's what they've been doing this week. They've been chasing her up. BBC in their eternal transphobic bias just calling them a watchdog and have no interest in talking about the ways that like endless turfs have been swapped into the leadership position of the HRC. Um, but this isn't just the functioning of government. This is a very specific like urge to try and solidify the anti-trans project, and this is where it's maybe coming apart because Bridget Phillipson is probably trying to win Labour deputy leader, and there's a massive public crisis in support for Labour, and there's leftists starting to overtake them. Like Greens just polled ahead of Labour this week for the first time in history, and she doesn't want to be doing any Nazi shit the same time she's trying to win deputy leader, unfortunately, for the HRC. So this leads us to the really strangest outcome of this. You know, the HRC said, "Hey, Bridget, like, fucking hurry up and do it. Like, ban all the trans people right away." And she was like, "Oh, I don't know you. I have a new phone. I actually have never used a phone before. Who is this? Who am I?" And the EHRC have taken down their interim guidance on trans people. It's quite bizarre. Um, they've just taken it down off their website. It wasn't legally binding before anyway, so it's not like this is a change to the law, it not being there. But they've now told they've told people asking about it that they should just seek legal advice. Just go ask a lawyer instead. Um, yeah, which is just bizarre, and I think like it's hard to be totally clear on what these moves mean right now. Personally, I think this is the turf project, like kind of having the wheels come off it a little bit. They had their big moment of victory, and which leads them to a point where they get to hum and haw over like the more moderate of them, the Helen Lewis's of the world, get to hum and haw over like, have we done a wrong thing? How do we find the balance? They start pointing at J.K. Rowling and Graham Linehan and saying these people are obviously actually quite extreme. They're the extremists in this movement, so they can go back and forth and have their centrist position. But having achieved that moment of victory, but not completely solidified it, and then all these crises come in on top of it, while they're saying, oh, I don't totally agree with these extremists. Yeah, they're starting to come apart at the seams a little bit. So that's it's an interesting time. This is why I said it's not good news because it could be actually good news if we were organizing properly. Um, but there is some trans organizing going on, so I wanted to shout out to Bashback, who have vandalized the Philia conference, which is a turf group that's existed, I believe, since 2018, which is just exists to terrorize trans people. It's the whole thing. It's just a turf think tank. Like it exists to plan out the strategy of how to politically make change to make trans people's lives awful. Um, the BBC reporting on it saying their conference will cover a broad spectrum of topics, including anti-racism, women's health, male violence, political organizing, lesbian lives, migration, and class. And it's like things to discuss anti-racism and lesbians' lives and migration and class. These already existed. This conference is for turf. It's just a turf conference. I
It's
did
so
actually have,
they could be more explicitly racist than they could be at other
yeah, yeah. No,
venues.
it would
Yeah.
be it would be kind of fascinating actually to see what the turf conference has to say about immigration, right?
It's
Um,
definitely racism.
yeah, it's gonna be really bad. They're gonna get in the Hitler car.
Yes.
The bashback vandalism basically smashed some of the windows of the venue. This is in Brighton, next to the Hilton, and it didn't stop the conference from happening, which is kind of my criticism. I had someone ask for what's my like evaluation of what bashback are up to, and I'm like, I think the action against Sodexo was cool, and I think the action against Wes Streeting's office was cool. I think these are kind of some of the right targets that highlight the violent systems that are killing trans people. And the turf one is a little bit more like I'm not totally sure here because like we all remember on Red Planet, I hope, when those anarchists shut down a Zionist venue
Oh
by
yeah.
getting the blue. Oh yeah, lovely. By
Lovely.
getting the blueprints to the venue and finding the substation that was pumping the sewage and sabotaging it, which backed up the Zionist event with human feces. So they had to shut it down, right? So it's like if I were a crime lover who loves to do crimes, which I'm not, no one should do crimes, don't do them. I would be seeking to sabotage something to shut an event down rather than just spray paint it and smash some windows, allowing it to carry on while TERFs also get the moment to be able to go, wow, we got attacked. Um, yeah, but I think the more important organizing, I think that overall, like seeing more direct action in trans organizing is a good thing overall. It's cool to see people escalating the fight in that way. I think the biggest thing that is missing, I'll say it again and again and again, is public assemblies. We need trans people to get together, form democratic structures, talk about the political situation, talk about the struggles we're facing, talk about the immediate problems in our lives, build structures to be able to deal with them, to reduce harm in them, to make people's lives better immediately, and also have a democratic structure that is organizing toward a greater political liberation. I think it's the way to go, and I'll have a video about it soon. So stay tuned on my channel. In the meantime, Mule, this relates to our main discussion today to do with the US and escalating aggression towards South America. Tell us all about Colombia.
Well, I just wanted to add something to what you were discussing there about the Philia conference because when I was getting started with my community support healing in the broader community, I spoke to a good comrade of mine who has given me an endless amount of wonderful support and advice. She is a feminist activist, lesbian. She's 70 years old. She's done loads of stuff regarding conflict and resolution stuff in activist spaces for 50 years. She was at Greenham Common. This is the kind of person that she is. And I was just having a little chat with her. I'd said the stuff about, oh, we're thinking about doing this. And she goes, anyway, how have you been? And we were having a chat. And she goes, did you see the stuff about the Philia conference? And I said, I don't think I know about it, but I don't know what you're referring to. And she goes, well, there's a woman there called Jean Hatchett, who's a horrible TERF. And she was filming other TERFs that she doesn't like. So she was just like, they were having like a weird TERF disco. And this Jean Hatchett lady was just like filming TERFs that she's like, these are traitors to women. And actually like, they're too moderate. So she's just like harassing them by like filming them and shit. And like someone stole a phone and they had a fight. And it was just like, like it is just really good to see infighting like that, like
In the right wing. Yeah. It's good to see them do this. Yeah, like fall apart. But it's like they don't like each other in the first place. You were saying this about the big Fash March. Like they are unpleasant people around loads of other unpleasant people who are temporarily united to do nasty stuff to people. This is my point about the shock of victory. They think they've won, and now they're just gonna kick the fuck out of each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah,
that's it.
Thank you for that. I didn't know about Jean Hatchett. That's funny as fuck. What's going on in Colombia?
Yes, so this is the news that activists in Colombia attacked the US embassy. So this was literally yesterday. A collection of indigenous, anti-fascist and anti-US imperialism protesters attacked the US embassy in Bogota, Colombia, and the police who were protecting it. Using Molotovs, rocks, and bows and fucking arrows, the protesters made the cops' lives hell, and the US diplomats inside the building were well aware of how the Colombian people feel about the fascist US empire. I believe that 6 cops were shot with arrows. Latin American countries have been uniting against US aggression in the Caribbean, with anti-US and pro-Venezuelan protests in Cuba taking place after more attacks on peasant fishing boats by the US off the coast of Venezuela. Trump has also this week signaled that the CIA will be attempting internal operations in Venezuela under the guise of, quote, cracking down on drug cartels, end quote, lining up with his rhetoric about Joe Biden letting in loads of drug smugglers into the US when the facts and data, of course, show the reality that the majority of drug trafficking in and out of Venezuela comes from the US. First Post reports that the Bogota mayor, Carlos Fernando Galan, condemned the incident, saying, quote, delinquents, some of whom were hooded, attacked the embassy with incendiary devices, explosives, and arrows, end quote. He confirmed that 4 police were wounded in the face, legs, and arms. Images shared by the Defense Ministry depicted a chaotic scene, including one officer with an arrow lodged in his arm. We at Red Planet are obviously sickened by this evil left-wing violence, and indeed we condemn. But as always, comment on the reality that these kinds of incidents will only increase as the imperialist capitalist evil in this world continues to oppress countries in the periphery and its own working class. So these evil imperialists should just do, communism, and none of this will happen. So that's that. It was absolutely wild. Did you see any of the footage, Soph?
Yeah. It was just incredible. This is such a stupid thing to be thinking about, but I keep on thinking about the Ewoks. Like, like that the political point that it was originally going to be the Wookiees, and it's a whole like Vietnam thing that George Lucas was doing, and he was just like being like imperialism has all the fancy toys and like these soldiers that look like action figures, but even if you literally just have bows and arrows, you will kick the fuck out of them because you have the power of the force. You have
Literally.
morality, you have history, the arc towards justice on your side, and you will just shoot them with arrows. And that my other thought was, I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to the knee. And that's my only thoughts. It
um,
rocks. It's cool to see. It's just cool to see people kicking off against American imperialism.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that it is a really good point that you make, because I often think all the time about sabotage in the face of imperialism, in the face of, industrialized genocide, industrialized climate change. I think that that is always representative of the fact that we are workers and that we use our hands, and we have the tools to dismantle the things that we built. We understand how these things were built, and you can absolutely, relate that to bows and arrows. Like most people, I think, if you gave them like some wood and a string, they would probably be able to make a bow and arrow just because they've seen one. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I kind of get the idea of this. Obviously, I don't think anyone should build bows and arrows, but it's just a comment that I'm making, in that, yeah, it's natural human behavior to make things with our hands. And there are, far more of us than there are of them, and there's a lot of things that we could make with
Yeah.
our hands, non-violent,
It's
that
Yep,
wouldn't be
yep.
criminal.
We could make big soft oven mitts to go and cuddle the police with. We could make some kind of pressurized can to run up to a police officer with that's full of whipped cream
Yeah.
to offer him a delicious sweet treat. No, I think it's when you see a bunch of guys with bows and arrows and you're like trying to cash a check. It's just a job. Like one of the cops like removing Palestine action protesters the other day. As they were being carried away, the protesters like, "Is this how you want history to remember you?" And he said this chilling shit. He was just like, "I don't want to be remembered." And I was just like, you get then that you're doing like, that in his case, that's because he knows he's doing an evil thing. He's decided
Yeah.
he needs, the cash in order to sort a thing out. Like he wants his life to be comfortable enough. And like, if you're one of these guys and a bunch of guys with bows and arrows show up, I'm just gonna say like, unless you would get like some kind of legal proceedings for abandoning your post, if that were me, I would walk off the job that instant. There's guys
Oh
with bows
yeah.
and arrows. No. No, the whole idea of me having all this fucking body armor and a gun is that no one ever tries to kill me. And these
Mm.
guys have bows and arrows. Absolutely not.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree. We have got our last story of the news segment from Soph, and we're staying in Latin America. Tell us about what's going on in Peru.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much happening. I mean, we will get into, yeah, like it's a very global discussion topic we have today, but there's like so much happening in South America at the moment. And so Peru is already sick of its new president, and it's been a week. Um, it's maybe not fair to say that like it happened in a week, because they were already sick of him. His polling was 5% last month. His public approval overall
That's less than Keir
one, two,
Starmer.
three, four, 5%. Let's get into it, right? So, only a week after taking office, Peruvian President Jose Herri faces enormous violent protests demanding his immediate removal. Herri had 5% approval in September, only slightly above the 3% approval of Dina Boluarte, who was removed by the Gen Z protests in Peru that combined violent confrontations with police, mass mobilizations, and strikes. So this is from the Financial Times about our new guy, Jose. An Ipsos poll from September put his approval ratings at 5%, while prosecutors in August shelved an investigation into accusations of sexual assault, citing a lack of evidence. Local media have also accused Harry of taking bribes relating to public works while presiding over the budget committee in Congress, claims the attorney general has said may prompt a formal investigation. Hedy has denied wrongdoing in both cases. But it's not just that he's probably a piece of shit in several different ways, like in doing his job and how he treats women. And there are more examples of him being a horrible misogynist you can look up. It's not just those things that makes him unpopular with the protesters. I've actually written an enemy of the people in the notes here, so I just don't want to let that go by. He has since taking office declared, quote, a war on crime and tried to drive a wedge between protesters, saying, quote, a small group is trying to disrupt the peaceful intentions of those who have taken to the streets to make their voices heard. Their actions only aim to sow chaos and violence in our country. Which is just the most pathetic, like, substitute teacher with the class out of control shit to say. Just like, if everyone's gonna stay behind and we're not gonna have a lunch break if you keep acting like this, and if you help him, don't help him, because if he carries on, we're all staying behind and having no lunch break. Just fucking ridiculous. So he's also killed a protester in the first week. It's going really well for him. Let's hear from MSN here. Peru's new president, Jose Pari, refused to resign on Thursday following the death of a protester during a massive demonstration led by Gen Z activists demanding he step down. About 100 people were also injured, including 80 police officers. Sorry, I'm going to editorialize MSN a little bit there. About 20 people were also injured. Also, 80 police officers were injured, and 10 journalists, according to authorities, who said they were investigating the shooting and the killing of the protester. Quote, my responsibility is to maintain the stability of the country. That is my responsibility and my commitment. Sounding like you're really on the rails and doing okay there, repeating responsibility twice in the same sentence, my guy. Hedy told the local press after visiting Peru's parliament, where he said he would request powers to combat crime. Very cool. We love powers to combat crime by a guy who just got brought in response to popular uprising in South America.
Oh, everyone's
Really
going to
cool
love
and
that.
Everyone's
Everyone's going to think that's really cool. It's going to help his approval rating.
Probably no one will get dropped out of a helicopter to their death. Probably no one will be suspended from an iron bar for 6 hours. Probably. Um, All of this sits within a wider context, of course, in which 2025 saw mass protests led by Gen Z against the political establishment in Indonesia, Nepal, the Philippines, Peru, Madagascar, and Morocco. Oh, and Kenya as well. Madagascar this week saw its military leader, Colonel Michael Randrianirina, take the office of president after a mutiny by the military following mass public outrage, which Tim covered last week. In the country currently touted as the most successful popular overturning of the government, Nepal, the interim government has come into power by democratic process. They had a vote on Discord so that the Gen Z protesters could be most heard. And they've come into a country that is hopeful and optimistically anticipating their next moves. Meanwhile, in countries that have repressed the protests and kept their current administrations, like Kenya or Morocco, or countries like Peru that have brought in a strong man to suppress the protests, we will only see the people get angrier and violent political repression get worse. This is the nature of deteriorating material conditions as the ultimatum between socialism and barbarism becomes more obvious. Authoritarian and fascist governments may have no qualms about deploying police or troops to silence dissent, or using misinformation to hold up a fake political reality based on bullshit. But only socialism can create a sustainable future for the people, which means that people will keep on revolting over and over until they get socialism sooner or later. I said this before, it's not socialism or barbarism. It is barbarism until we get socialism. Yeah. Mule, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, as we mostly do on this show. We said at the very start of this show, when it's a circle jerk, it's good when you know that it's a circle jerk. It's when you don't know that it's a circle jerk that it's embarrassing and bad. But yeah, no, I think that we're seeing all these uprisings all over the world, and it is just that inevitability that we started the show with. Again, we've always said from day one, capitalism is falling apart, things are going badly, and even if it doesn't fall apart sooner, than it could do, it will eventually fall apart because the planet is going to fall apart. And I think that most people are aware of this. I do want to go back to you were talking about the Bridget Phillipson EHRC thing. And there is a kind of evidenced reality that we're in where the existence of a progressive leader of the Green Party who is going around and saying things that people have been desperate to hear for a long time is actually pushing the Overton window to the left. And it is so representative, I think, worldwide that everybody just knows that this system is fucked. Like, everybody knows. It's like no one is going to work every day and going, this is great. This is just exactly how I want to be. I don't dream of trees or grass or anything like that. I love to be in my cold, sterile environment with Nazi lights and then go home.
I guess it's kind of sad that all the cherry trees on Earth no longer produce fruit and you'll never have a cherry again, but they have kombucha in the office mini fridge now.
Yeah, I can't wait to go home to my sterile flat and watch my sterile television show, which is of the same IP, and it has been for the last 5 or 6 years. They just make Alien series now. It's just Alien. It's just the Alien franchise. There's 57 seasons of different Alien franchise related media that you could watch. It's so good. I love it. I don't dream of art. I don't dream of trees. I don't dream of the sun. No one behaves like that. No one thinks that that's good and great, apart from weird psycho-fascist pedophile billionaires.
It's probably going to go more Kingdom Hearts, and we're just going to have like Bubsy killing the alien. Like everything, all the IP has to just get glued together like a Katamari that's actually being rolled by the guy from Katamari Damacy because obviously he's in the IP as well.
You're right. You're actually right.
I mean, look, I think the Overton window is like a centrist idea that works pretty well for political analysis when centrism is working okay. Like, here's the window and it shifts this way or it shifts this way. And in times like these, when the material conditions are just failing everyone except a tiny little class that, like, the commentariat all sit comfortably inside of, so everyone in the media thinks that centrism is still viable, right? They think it's chill. They are the only people who are like, yes, let's try having a rational debate with both sides and then find a tax levy that will make the situation better. And the vast majority of everyone else is either like, we need to destroy capitalism or we need to destroy everyone who doesn't look exactly like Steven Crowder. And those are the two most popular opinions. I think, it's like the Overton window's shattered. Yeah, it's like, people want change more than anything else, I think.
That's it. Well, we have done the news for today. We are a show. We're called Red Planet. And it is important for us to remind you that we are only able to do this show with the direct support of our viewers. Please go to patreon.com/red_planet and give us money so that Conrad can survive. Because it's you that are killing him, chatters and listeners. It's your fault. It's your fault that he can't eat. So think about that. Anyway,
shaking my damn SMDH right now.
SMH, my damn head. I can't believe they've done this. I see one chat saying, who is Conrad? You should watch more Red Planet shows and give us money for being that offensive. Okay. Next up, that person's never going to subscribe to the Patreon now. Next up, we have the main segment of the show, and we are going to be telling you what it is. This is going to be good. I'm going to change this into something serviceable in a minute. It's really important that we look at, as a show, the way that imperialism is going all over the world. We often talk on the show about the fact that the empire is currently falling apart. It has it's having a bit of a crisis. This is evidenced by imperialism being turned inwards. And the fascinating thing is that even while there is this direct shaking of the foundations of the imperialist, white, supremacist imperial core, that they are still trying to do a little bit of imperialism. It doesn't matter, even though it would make so much more sense for them to just simply focus all their energies on completely oppressing and destroying the populations of their own cities, which is normally what happens, and it's already kind of started to
It
happen,
is happening. Yeah.
and it is happening. But they're still putting a bit of energy into trying to murder people abroad. So we're
Mm.
going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about the US's imperialist interests in general, focusing on Latin America, but we're also going to be talking a little bit about Russia and Gaza and Iran. So yeah, this is mainly about the aggression in the Caribbean from the US. We had another so-called drug trafficking boat struck off the coast of Venezuela earlier. I think it was, I don't know if it was earlier this week or the week before, but it was recent. And the that has coincided, as I said earlier, with the news segment about Colombia and the unrest there. That Trump has said, yeah, we're going to be putting the CIA into Venezuela, which is a crazy thing because it's like, does he think that they like can't read English? I don't know. Like he's like, yeah, we're gonna get the CIA to do a coup, and Maduro's like, yeah, I already knew that, and also like, thanks for telling me. Like,
Yeah, everyone had already figured that actually was the
yeah,
next move. It's kind of I don't know, it's like I don't know how much Trump talks to the appropriate people when he has a grievance. It feels like he does just turn to Truth Social and he's learned that he can just ignore having the proper meetings and tweet the thing he wants and that people will get the machine working, especially as someone like Stephen Miller, who's like very adept at turning his like decree via tweet into a specific action. Um, I don't know if that's like, but the CIA thing feels like him being out of touch with it. Like it's the CIA are surely already trying to do this shit, and he's like, and he just hasn't checked in at all. He's like, why is Maduro? Why do we still have Maduro? We're not supposed to. He's supposed to be gone already. We mustn't have sent in CIA. Someone get me CIA. You know what? I'll just tweet CIA. I'll just tell the CIA it's doing. It's time for it now.
yeah,
And they're all there at the office. Like we've been trying for months to kill this dude. Like we've been trying so many different things. We've revived all of our like classic Cuba era trying to kill Che Guevara, trying to kill Fidel Castro shit. We've got the exploding cigars. We're trying to drop a piano on him. We've got like we've got some poison that we're gonna. This was a great one I learned this week because you know there are 600 assassination attempts that Castro survived.
yes,
Um, One of them apparently they'd got the poison there in he loved dairy. He was so into milkshakes, ice creams, and he would always go to the same place and get a chocolate milkshake. And they'd gotten a guy there who was going to put poison in it, and the poison was stored on its side in the freezer, and they and it froze to the surface, and they couldn't get it off. Which is just like this guy pulling and pulling, trying to get the poison to kill Fidel Castro. Um, all right, yeah.
so
Yeah,
the
it's like I
yeah,
think this like these moves towards a war against Venezuela specifically that are based in sort of war on drugs language, that are based in like they are the people who have the gangs. It's very much trying to please the base with a war. Very classic, moves of like imperialist populism by Trump in this regard. I think like it would be fair, it would be kind of clear cut to say like yeah like the empire's shaking a little bit and have a good old war seems like a good way to like get things moving, but they've already basically been trying to wind down their involvement in two major world conflicts because they don't want to spend the money on it, Israel of course and Ukraine. um and Yeah, but so now they're going into this one. I think it is a much better fit for Trump's base.
yeah,
Um, so it is just kind of a crowd pleaser from that
hmm
perspective. Like,
yes,
if the troops deployed to LA and Portland and everywhere, like, don't fight with a bunch of leftists because, like, because, like, people don't want to just get shot immediately, then there isn't the kind of spectacle of suppressing the left that Trump wanted to have in that way. Um, and like organizing continues on at its own pace. And in the meantime, like what are people looking at to see the Trump project like really succeeding and looking great. Because like in Washington, D.C., it's guys who signed up to the army because they want an engineering degree and free dentistry, like picking litter while someone plays the Hanoi message at them about how their girlfriends are sleeping with someone else because they're
Hanoi
not
Hannah,
moral.
yeah,
Hanoi Hannah, exactly.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that seems like the drive to me, but I still don't totally. Um, I don't think it's going to go well. That's basically what I'm saying. I don't know if this is a hot take to anyone. I think this is looking bad, actually. And not in the way that all war is bad, but in the way that like this just seems like a really, really stupid move right now.
Oh yeah,
Like,
oh yeah.
like in like if it does build up to an invasion, which like I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them deploy a force. I think the CIA thing is indicative of him trying to like find other options and trying to make it happen without having to deploy troops. But I
Hmm.
think this could easily crash out really, really badly for Trump.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's all so cynical in so many ways. I think you're absolutely spot on in that like the attention has been turned away from Gaza, the attention has been turned away from Russia, and well, I mean, we'll see what happens with Gaza because Benjamin Netanyahu is currently humiliating Trump on the world stage by violating the ceasefire in many different ways, and of course,
they're
Trump will
not
probably, you
they're not
know,
good buddies anymore.
no, they're not.
No.
Like, I think that Trump will probably just be like, "Oh, it was Hamas. We spoke to Israel. They said it was Hamas, and they did it." And but it's crazy because it's one of them. Like, he's just an egotist, right? He just loves to talk. He loves to be the center of attention. All he wanted was to have done this ceasefire deal, and it's like, yeah, it's great. And because Hamas immediately agreed to it, he was like sucking them off, like in public. He was like, people were even mentioning like, "Oh, Hamas are going around and they're like executing all these Palestinians," and he was like, "Well, they're gangs. We have to execute our own gangs here. We have to do the same thing. It's the same thing as in any country." And it's like, that's crazy that he was just saying that that's like fine. Um,
I've also recently become quite a fan of Hassan Piker. I like to tune in. I like to watch. I like to chat sometimes. I'm subscribed. I'm tier 6. It's a new tier. They made it up just for me. It's my own tier. I get my own emotes that only I can use.
they're saying
Um,
it's globalized the
I
intifada, folks. They're saying
globalize the Intifada. They're saying remember the Nakba. Remember it. And I'm saying sometimes which one even. Um,
no,
yeah,
but
I
yeah, he's kind of like having this moment of I really want to make this happen, and I'm gonna suck off Hamas because they agreed to it, and rada rada rada. But like the most cynical thing that we can look at here is, what have we said about Trump ever since he got into power? He's packing up the empire into a little box. He's trying to make as much money as possible for his mates, for his weird pedophile billionaire friends. How is he doing that this time in relation to Venezuela? Well, of course, Venezuela is some of the largest oil reserves in the world. So when you look at things like Russia, it's like, well, also there's the energy war in terms of like, okay, what can we get in terms of fossil fuel? What can the fossil fuel lobby get hold of? Well, Russia's got loads of gas reserves, but we don't want to fight with Russia anymore because we're giving too much money to Ukraine. We're packing up the empire into a little box. We're going to have this little tiny war in Venezuela. It's going to be small. It's going to be easy. It's just Venezuela. Doesn't matter that there's 8 million people who live there who literally all have a gun now and they're doing daily fucking militia drills. There's definitely not going to be any like trap doors that our troops fall down into like a pit of spikes. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be like Vietnam. Just one more Vietnam, bro. I promise. Just one more Vietnam, and this will be it. He's turning the attention away from Russia because it's like, well, we could just get NATO to deal with Russia. Increase your defense spending, start pushing Russia again. Just keep poking, and eventually they'll like bomb Poland or something, or I don't know, like and there's your excuse to have like a horrible war with Russia, basically. So that's my sort of like cynical assessment of it. They obviously
I
want
don't.
Venezuela's oil, and I think that like it may very well be that they want to do the regime change, particularly, and he's talking about the CIA so openly because he knows that they will lose. They will just get the shit pushed
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah. What were your
I
thoughts on that?
Well, it's two things, I guess. Like one is I'd like to get more to Israel in a second because I think that's very relevant to just like how spectacularly unpopular that is around the world in terms of America's support of Israel at this point. I want to talk about Greta as well, because that was an interesting thing that happened this week. Um, but you know, with Russia, like I don't see any future where Trump feels comfortable and confident trying to confront Putin in any setting. And like people for the longest time have been saying that this is tapes of Trump getting pissed on or whatever, and there's a whole Russia gate thing happening behind the scenes, and this the liberal conspiracy theory space loves this. I think it's just a way more animal thing. I think Trump loves alpha males, and Putin is one of the like scariest dudes you could out of the world leaders. Putin is just one of the scariest dudes that you could be, and like especially from Trump's point of view, I think he's the kind of guy that Trump would not want to mess with. Maybe Trump thinks he's a reincarnation of Rasputin. Maybe he thinks he's got some kind of magic mind powers. Like he's definitely seen the picture of him riding the horse. And he loves Ronald Reagan, right? So like if he thinks of Putin as like in any way comparable to Reagan, like he's just not ever gonna try it. Um,
Yeah.
but against South America, like I think, yeah, like obviously there's again we were speaking about like precedent and like what the empire has done before. Meddling in South America is their favorite thing. It's why the whole region is so horribly like the one extreme or the other. Like they only have one of two kinds of government in South America, and it's either they have like succeeded at keeping a socialist society together, or they've had a coup and now they have like successive generations of guys they made in a lab to run a South American country badly. Speaking of which, like speaking on the region of South America, like I don't know if you saw that Milei's bailout has been doubled. They're now looking at
Yes.
40 billion going to
Yes.
Argentina,
And
so that's going really well.
that also benefits a hedge fund manager that Trump is friends with or
Yes.
something because
Well,
he's handling the
yeah.
loan or whatever. I don't
I
know
think
yet.
Malay is great because when you have a bunch of guys who have a side hustle together and you want to know what it is, and they're like, no, no, we can't tell you because then you want in on it. Like, we can't tell you. And you're like, I think what you're doing might be like fucking cutting the brakes of your own cars and then driving them into a wall. And they're like, it's definitely not that. It's definitely not. And Malay is like the kind of guy in that situation who is just like, I love cutting the brakes of my own car and driving it into a wall. I'm gonna do it right now, and like does it before everyone else does it. Like they all had a dumb plan, but he's the dumbest of them. And so like you can see, like this thing we're saying, like packing up the economy into a box, all just for the richest people and fucking off, like treating governance and statesmanship as itself like a kind of heist, right?
Yeah.
Millet rug pulled his own fans and
Yeah.
is now getting a bailout for Argentina that also is the bailout is going to benefit Trump's buddies. Like he's the place where you can see the really hyper obvious intentions of like Trump's class of political operator.
Yeah,
Um,
people were calling it a failure of global MAGA, right? A
yeah,
global MAGA movement.
yeah,
And I guess that's why he was so mad at the UN when he did his big speech. And like within the first 10 minutes, he mentioned Brazil and Lula, and all of the other Brazilian delegates just started like panicking, and they were going, shit, he's going to go to war with us. Like that's literally obviously what they were doing. And it's because of Bolsonaro, because obviously he loved Bolsonaro, the
yeah, of
plague
course.
lord. And he was like, why
The
have you
sickness
arrested
enjoyer.
the COVID enjoyer, COVID addiction.
He
You
liked COVID so much, he caught it 15 times and got himself under house arrest, which is like a personal version of lockdown.
Yeah. So yeah, he was pissed. He was obviously pissed that Lula won the election in the first place, and then he was pissed that Lula put him under house arrest. And it's like, yeah, well, he was planning a coup, so come on, man. Like, you gotta respect the hustle and like figuring that shit out. It can't have been that hard. Because, you know, if he's anything like Trump, he will have been posting to the Brazilian version of Truth Social, just being like, I'm going to murder Lula. Like, you know, just like, you know, it's time, the coup is coming. And Lula's just like, right, just arrest him.
This guy who is like coming to pieces worse than our sausage fingered king, like approaching you, the like operator of the nearby burger van, and trying to slip you like the equivalent of 50 million US dollars, and being like, please, you should kill Lula. And you realize in this moment he's like fully in like a fever, like he's covered in like cold sweats. He's just like, I know you can do it. You can kill Lula, and you just immediately call the police. You're just like, this guy is trying to get me to kill Lula. No, but I think you know if we look at South America and the leftist administrations there at the moment, right? We've got Bolivia, Brazil. Cuba isn't in South America exactly, but it's nearby, and you know it is they're taking action in solidarity with Venezuela. You've got Venezuela, who's the most directly under attack. You've got Colombia, who's also stated their solidarity and their intention to like defend Venezuela and attack the U.S. embassy. Like I think South America, like it's best summed up by that sign, right? That was like neoliberalism was born in Chile and it will die in Chile.
Yeah.
Like that everywhere that has successfully built a populist left movement in South America right now is like we know our history and we are not going to take more of this. We all like I think we all in this like political moment have like a shared sense of like I'll call it the end of the world because I think that a lot of people relate to it that way. A lot of people
Yeah.
especially who are like trying to like take a mental health break from politics and not look too much at my Instagram stories because it really bums me out. Like, just think like, oh, it's just the world's ending. It's you know, it's the collapse of the imperial core. It's all the consequences of it. It's the possible descent into fascism for much of the imperial core. The current descent into fascism for the U.S. at least. I'd say the U.K. as well. And it's the ascendance of powers in the imperial periphery. Most you know, most obviously China.
Yeah.
It's a big change in the structure of world power, and I think everyone has a shared sense of it, though different people, depending on their moral relations and their material relations, view it differently and describe it differently. And I think if you're in South America right now and this shit's happening, and now Trump's threatening to invade your neighbor, you're just like, nah.
Yep.
Like no,
Fuck this.
absolutely not. Like now
Hmm.
if you're saying now is the moment, like then let's go. Like I think that
Yeah.
this could seriously wind up with a conflict that's like it's in the region, like it's almost domestic, it's North America, South America. The rest of the world is quite likely after the last few years, I guess, the last few administrations, to not really want to help America out all that much.
Yeah.
It's not like the Middle East where like they can do the you know the coalition of the willing shit, the like you know this is the Western powers bringing democracy to this region together. You know what is it? Finland sends like two troops to Afghanistan or whatever because they just want to show a gesture. But like, um, it's a situation that like is just this the richest country in the world trying to stamp on one of its poorest immediate neighbors. And
Yep.
if other countries react with serious like armed solidarity against the US forces against Venezuela, I don't think like I mean even then if Europe wanted to help Europe doesn't have that much to help with, to be honest. Like, yeah, I think America might find itself like alone in this one without the ability to pay troops at a time when the administration is like historically unpopular, when they've just sent those same troops to suppress speech in American cities.
Yep.
And I mean, not the same troops because that's National Guard, but like, you know, the troops to domestic, like
And
political
then
repression.
and then obviously there was the military parade earlier this year that was like so embarrassing. You could just tell that there was not enough money going to the Department of War, and that's maybe to do with Doge, maybe a complete unforeseen disadvantage of the Doge cuts, and yeah, just like a general malaise within the army of of the US, the dying empire. And I think yeah, it's quite pertinent in that I was thinking about this earlier because I was watching you Gopnik, who is a great lefty streamer and content creator. He's part of the deprogram guys, and he is in China at the minute. He's gone to China. I think it's the first time he's been. And what's really funny is that like I know a bunch of like leftist people who have all recently gone to China. Like a couple of organizer people that I know, literally like posted on their Instagram, "We're in China," and
The
just
other
like showing
day,
us.
Abby was looking at, we were talking about how shit politics is, and
Yeah.
Abby goes, "What's trans rights like in China?"
Yep.
Like,
Yep. And yeah, the funniest thing is that like what most people, I actually met someone. I went to a festival called The World Transformed on last weekend, and there was a guy there that I knew sort of peripherally, and I was chatting to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I've just come back from China. I've got Chairman Mao's favorite brand of cigarettes." And he was like showing me the little skinny ciggies and stuff, and yeah, it was really cool. And then he was like, "Yeah, it's really in your face. They're just like." We're communists here. Like it's everywhere. The hammer and sickle is everywhere. They're like, it's a red fucking country. This is what we're doing. And Ugopnik said the same thing on his stream. He was literally talking about it today. He was streaming from China, and he was like, yeah, like every corner that you go, they're like, the reason that this place is so good is because of fucking communism. You better believe it. There's like huge hammer and sickles, like in fucking. There's like I saw like a picture of like a stairwell, and it was just like like a public kind of pathway, and then at the very top there's just like a big hammer and sickle with like a red background. And I don't even think I don't even think this
that's
is
fucking
just like,
nuts.
you know what I mean? I don't even think this is like Beijing. I think this is just like Qigong. I think is like the current place where a lot of people are going. I might have pronounced that wrong.
That's wild.
But yeah, it's so, and I think that that's like it's so obvious that yeah, we're in the capitalist century of humiliation. Like
Yeah.
we've spoken before about how like Deng was fucking right. Like the Chinese People's Republic of China were able to do capitalism far better and far more effectively than the imperialist West. And yeah, very little wars fought as a result as well. So interesting stuff. And yeah, I think that that's what it is. It's like the Imperial Core is just like a little toddler, like with like a fucking nuke in one hand and like a big wad of cash in the other, just going like, "Fuck! Why can't I make this work?" Like just like smashing shit all around it. And China's just like literally like the top Xi Twitch emote, like the chatified Xi Jinping, just there, like, yeah, we're doing communism, bro. Like, I don't know what you want. Like, this is it. It's over. Yeah, and I think it would be. I mean, it always feels horrible. It always feels horrible being like a white person living in Britain, talking about this stuff that might happen in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Talking about stuff
Yeah.
that happens in Gaza, because obviously we're so
Absolutely.
privileged, and it's not happening here, and we're able to like completely disattach from it if we so choose. Neoliberalism provides us that option, and but I do want to say that obviously it's a completely evil and horrible thing, and none of us are excited about it. But I think that if it does happen, someone in the chat put it quite aptly, I think, a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was in my stream or in this stream, that it will be Uncle Sam's last dance. Like there could not really be anything more humiliating for America or Trump than like not winning a war in Venezuela, right?
Yeah.
It's something that they've spoken about for so long. It's been such a rhetoric in terms of,
Mhm.
uh, you know, Venezuela is the horrible communist country. You'll never get anything there. Oh, you love socialism. Well, you love Vuvuzela,
It's
Vuvuzela
Vuvuzela.
iPhone.
It's
Yeah,
iPhone Vuvuzela. Literally, I was
yeah,
thinking this earlier today. Like, it's the it's such a staple of anti-communist bullshit. I have a Twitch copy pasta where you can put in iPhone Vuvuzela in my chat, and it will say a bunch of like goofy ass like mishearings of all the anti-communist propaganda. It's called like the command is called iPhone Vuvuzela. This is how commonplace it is when people are just ranting McCarthyite nonsense. I would
yeah,
say I want to pick up on something you said. Not winning a war in Venezuela is the humiliation, because that's I think is an important take, right? Is that the place we are in right now is one where the only positive would be to go, like the only positive move for Trump's approval success for the American empire would be following through with some sort of action and getting regime change in Venezuela. And if the CIA can do that, that would be, a success for them. But if not, like it's either go to war and win the war, or they're or it's more of this humiliation, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not saying or they're completely cooked and it's over and that'll immediately like dethrone Trump and whatever, but just that it won't, they have to have that W and
Yeah.
anything else is a big fat L. And
Yeah,
so not
absolutely.
going to war, which is, they might like, it might just be Trump realizes how bad this situation would get, and says, just changes the topic. He's very adept at that. But
Yeah.
like people still would be like, "Oh, so you're a pussy." Like everyone, you just been made to look like a little bitch on the international stage. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
1,000%. And that's it, right? That's the key part of it. The key part of it is yeah, there's absolutely no coming back from all this talk, because if you think about Trump's whole shtick is kayfabe. He's like a wrestler. He was on WWE or something like that at some point back in the day. He loves to talk a big game. He loves to be like, "We're gonna do this. We're gonna get this done. We're getting it done. We're doing it. We're doing this, that, and the other. We've done the best things, and we're doing so many other good things." And there's been so much talk about Venezuela, so much talk about that stuff. And it's kind of interesting because when you think about like the war with Iran earlier this year, the whole thing was we can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They weren't saying things like we need to invade Iran and stuff like that. Israel was saying that shit. Israel was saying things like we need to have a regime change in Iran and stuff like that. The US wasn't really entertaining that. They were just saying they can't have nuclear weapons, they can't have nuclear weapons, they can't have nuclear weapons. Now, whether that is like them understanding the limitations of what they could possibly do in Iran, or them just being like, this would be a really unpopular war, let's not do it. I don't know. But that's hard. That second one is hard to see because they're talking about invading fucking Afghanistan again and all this stuff. Um it's like, okay, so, they went in and they bombed the site in Isfahan, and they didn't make any dent in the nuclear production facilities or whatever. And Trump was like, "Yeah, we did it. We sent the boys in. We did the job, and we went home." And it's like, "No, you didn't." And then the people who said, "No, you didn't," he fired all them. And so, like, I don't know. Is the best case scenario here? Um, if it's going to happen, Trump bombs somewhere in Venezuela. He's already bombed, peasant fishing boats in Venezuela, but he bombs some kind of thing, and he goes, "We've just taken out the Maduro complex or whatever. We've killed Maduro. You know what I mean? We've just done this. We just bombed him. He was a dictator. We had to get rid of him. Yada yada yada." And then it turns out that they didn't bomb Maduro. They didn't make any dent in Venezuela or any like the People's Revolution of fucking Bolivar, is protected and it's still happening. Like, is that the best case scenario kind of thing? Because it's like, yeah, I think that if there are these like continued attempts to do imperialism and then chickening out, it is kind of like, well, yeah, like that's where you're at. That's where you're at as a military power in terms of like what could you actually achieve, what could you do, and then maybe it will be. I don't know. Maybe it will be an attempt to try and build up the military in a different way. They're already trying to do that, right? They did
yeah,
the Pete Hegseth grinder profile, no fats, no femmes.
yep, yep.
Yeah, and no more woke in the military. So I guess they're trying to. But like, how do you encourage people to be part of the military when you're like drills every single day, and it's
Yeah.
like people don't even like it when there's drills every week. Like,
The Yeah, it's important to remember that all of the context when we're discussing the morale of troops, that the context is that they recently got called fat, gay, and woke by their own secretary of war. Fucking embarrassing. Like while he's like clearly having sex with the podium he's lecturing from. But I think the thing about what was I was going to say about Venezuela? Yeah, that situation could be the least casualty situation, and like, except for like no war happens at all. Trump tries to, but it could also be the maximum humiliation situation because, this idea of the what's the exact phrase people use for it? I'm not remembering right now, but there's an idea of like the emperor's power. That's like there's a paradox where the emperor is meant to be like a manifestation of like divine forces and like have a godly power. But if he ever were to like fight anyone or in any way try to invoke his power, like he runs the risk of them saying no, and then everyone can see he doesn't have any magic powers whatsoever. And when an emperor is like really really believed in by the people, then like he could exercise his power because they would definitely say yes, and there's no worry that anyone's going to not. And I think there's a similar thing with like the American military at the moment, where like America started out this century going to war against one of the poorest countries in a desert region that it and its allies had historically robbed and underdeveloped and bombed and stolen from and bombed again and had regime changes and bombed again and funded terrorist group and bombed again, um, and like just doing atrocities there, and everyone hated it. And like, but I think the Iran thing, you know, I I think they might feel like right now they can't let that become a pattern. Like saying like we're gonna get involved in this and we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it, and then like pussying out at the last minute makes
Yeah.
everyone like, oh, maybe you actually can't do it. Like maybe actually the wars we've seen you fight, you either were part of a massive coalition, a massive allied force, or you were stomping on a a much, much, much weaker, poorer country, or you got your ass kicked. And now suddenly the idea that, the American military is the biggest and strongest and toughest in the world, well, like, how do we measure that in the rubber meets the road terms? Like, we know about nuclear weapons, but this becomes a whole other, like, uh, level of discussion when you're talking about nuclear weapons because of the nature of the world-ending device. Like, when it comes to, like, an armed conflict, like boots on the ground, yeah, like they're getting themselves in a really fucking bad situation where like if they get a little bit involved and run away, it could be the worst possible thing for them. And if they get very involved, it could be just as bad in terms of reputation and world power, but also they get a lot of people killed.
Yeah. And I think that we should talk about this in the context of the Gustavo Petro speech, talking about the army to save the world, right? Because his whole shtick with that was like, America is the bully of the world. We need to have an army of people, the free people's army of the world, the half Earth socialist army to stop the capitalist psycho-fascists.
He's
And
he's outlining Half-Earth Socialism Chapter Zero, like the
right,
DLC you get. Like when the game starts with like you've just been installed as world president and you have to get to carbon zero. It's
yeah.
like what just happened was Gustavo Petro's army.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, and it feels pretty pertinent with it because half Earth socialism, I think, starts in Havana. Like that's like where the game starts. But like yeah, I guess fantasies aside, if we kind of look at the world in this like really easy context, like America is not as powerful as it says it is. It's only been as powerful as it has been previously because of this huge coalition, like you said, mass allied, assaults on countries that are weaker than all the allies put together. Um, then it's like, okay, yeah, like Gustavo Petro getting the army to save the world could amount to some kind of like, right, America, sort your shit out. We're going to demilitarize you. And you just have to stop doing fucking capitalism. You just have to stop doing imperialism. And maybe we do a little bit of land back as well. Do you know what I mean? Maybe we help the fucking indigenous people get land back. Maybe we help the black people get reparations, all this kind of shit. Because it's like this stuff is like it's the stuff that needs to happen to make capitalism end, right? It's the stuff that needs to happen where these like concessions by capital.
Which Petro was also saying. He was saying explicitly this is the goal, is for
Exactly.
capitalism to end.
Exactly. And I think that like that's what it is. And I think that if there were some kind of incursion into Venezuela that really showcased the US being as weak as it really truly is, then it would be vulnerable. I think it would be vulnerable. Like I think even if the Gustavo Petro army of the world doesn't even happen, there could very well be some kind of an incursion or an attack on US soil. A lot of people in the US have this like mad idea that it's like, if anyone ever got here, we've got the army, we've got the guns, everyone in the USA has got a gun. No one in the fucking USA has got combat experience that's like, fighting off like a foreign military. Like if you're talking about like Red Dawn shit, like that's a movie, right? It's like a movie that happened. Like it won't go down like that. There'll be like missile attacks or some shit like that. And I don't know who would do it, but it's like there are lots of people. It's like who killed Mr. Burns, right? Who would go to war with America when it's revealed that they are like super, super weak, and that like, yeah, this fucking country is killing the planet and we need to end it like immediately. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's hard to imagine a situation where America's like global power is so diminished that there's that ability, and for it to still be worthwhile, like people attacking it in that way, unless it got to a sort of World War II situation where like, I mean, you just said this country is killing the world, we got to stop it. Like, unless it was
yeah,
an invasion to stop some kind of aggression, I guess.
right.
Um, yeah, I think that's the other thing as well, is like if they do go through with this stuff, they've the genocide in Gaza has caused such a global, enormous focus on how disgusting the everyday operations of imperialism are, and especially imperialist wars. And like it has seriously hurt like not just Israel's but America's as its biggest backer and biggest fan, biggest supporter, biggest ally. Um, globally people are like seeing the link there and disgusted by it. Like this was this week. Greta Thunberg like gave an interview about how she was treated when the Samud flotilla didn't reach Gaza, but like they were detained by the Israeli Navy, and then like they were there for several days. She said that she was repeatedly stripped naked and like filmed, being yelled at, beaten, beaten basically the whole time, the whole way through at every stage, put in a cell full of insects and shit. And she was saying, like, I'm saying all of this. She said she doesn't want this to be the headline or whatever. I'm not sure that's like the right strat from her position, because actually, like, the fact of it is, Israel tortured a Swedish citizen, and the Swedish government has an incredible like responsibility to do something very serious about that.
Yes.
Um, but her point was, of course, that her treatment is still nothing compared to Palestinians, right? You have Palestinians describing in Israeli custody being raped by dogs. You have Palestinian children being blown to bits or shot with sniper rifles while they're looking for their parents in the rubble of their house, like every day. Like it's just, this is, people know how unbelievably disgusting fascism looks in the 21st century, and like I think that maybe that's a flip side to the emperor's power kind of thing as well. Is like if they successfully can use their power, it will be horrifying, but it will make everyone hate them so much faster that it will probably lead to immediate conflicts. And
Mm,
if they try to use their power and fail, it's just over. So the whole situation with Venezuela, like, yeah, it just seems like a situation Trump's run them all into. They can't possibly win. I can't imagine how like Republicans who are fairly like seasoned foreign policy people feel about all of this right now, because like it's a fucking grim situation uh for American power.
yeah.
Obviously it's a grimmer situation for Venezuelans, but it's a like they yeah.
Um, and I think that you're totally right. Because if we think about the way in which about Greta Thunberg particularly, because if we think about the way in which the Imperial Core thinks about what is happening in Gaza, like we've seen it, like everyone has seen it, everyone has seen what's happened, and there is no fucking way in a million years that the politicians who are in charge of our fucking countries don't know it's happening. They know it's happening. They know that these kids are getting killed. They know that Palestinian prisoners are getting raped to death. They know that all this stuff is happening. It doesn't move them, and it doesn't move the populace more broadly. It does move some of the populace, but if there were to be a real thing to talk about. It would be, unfortunately, to take advantage of the white supremacist ideas of countries like Sweden and be like, oh, look, this
Yeah.
white lady got sexually assaulted in a depraved way by Israel. And it's gross that we have to think in that way, but it's
No,
like,
but yeah,
what does it take? What does it fucking take to get people to act? Like, we have to try everything, right? Like I said
yeah,
to you when you brought this up, it's pragmatism over principle. Like, yes, absolutely, in principle, we're all very aware that Palestinians get treated far worse, but we
yeah,
need to do another thing. Like we've said this many, many times to a blue in the face. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and people
yeah,
don't give a fuck. But we have to make them give a fuck. We have to
yeah,
make them give a fuck.
absolutely. And I think that she has a
Um,
legal case that she could bring against the Swedish government. Even
exactly.
I look. I don't know all the ins and outs of the law. I'm just saying that like there are levers of power that could be being deployed here. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that like it's like the people who already care a fucking lot. And at this point, it's been going on so long. We've seen so many twists of it that like even this ceasefire, like remember the first ceasefire, like the first after October 7th, 2023, like people dropped off enormously. There was such a massive dip in the energy of pro-Palestine protests. And at this point, it's several ceasefires later, and like a huge contingent of people, even before there's been continued like continued conflict in that Hamas are not fighting, right? They're still killing Palestinians, but like huge numbers of people are just being like, nope, don't buy it, just don't buy it, just not even slightly. Israel's definitely just going to carry on because of course they are. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
like people have gotten that kind of dug in and already just like until Israel is defeated and Palestine is free, it's not over, and they've got that message across. As for the people who haven't gotten it yet, the people who are still like, I don't know, like here's a donate to this Palestinian fundraiser, but I feel really like icky about the idea of like, am I being anti-Semitic if I say death to Israel or whatever? Like, I think for those people, like seeing that, like, hey, actually, like Greta Thunberg got like they wrote whore Greta on her suitcase. They like Ben Gvir came and screamed at her in the face. Like they had like as I said, like they repeatedly stripped her. They took pictures. It's a known thing they already do to Palestinians that they circulate pictures of prisoners that they've taken naked. Like that, it just for some people who are, yeah, still miraculously on the fence, even while able to go like, well, yes, the UN called it genocide, so I guess it's genocide, but they're still not getting that Israel has to be firmly stopped.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it could make a difference, and I think you should be utilizing it. But that's a bit of a
Yeah.
rant. I'm sorry about that.
No, no, no. I think that it's well worth discussing, and I think that yeah, every there does have to be, if we're going to think about the fact that we're workers, if we're going to think about the fact that we were talking about that before, like things that we do, if we use the analogy of like a chef in a kitchen, a chef does not leave one blade unsharpened before he starts they start their shift, right? And that's it. Like we have to think about things in that regard. Like if we think about the Zad, our Zad documentary is coming out very soon, folks. Go to patreon.com/red_planet and give us some money in order to get some advance information about that documentary, and you'll see it first. But when we think about the Zad was, I mean, they hated it when we called it a what, like a popular front. I think Jay particularly was like, no, it wasn't a popular front. It was a collective something or other. But basically, there were
Oh,
loads of
Jay
people
loves
from.
word games, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Jay's very picky about that wording.
yeah. That's because they're a witch. That's because they're a swamp witch. Because they know that words have power in them.
That's fair. No, you might do it. You might accidentally fire off an incantation. You're right.
It's true. You don't know what you're gonna do. So
In this world, we really know very little.
um, yeah. No, it is like a broad agreement of a bunch of people who all had like different politics. Like one of the things that they love to mention and reminisce upon is that you had like anti-species vegans sat next to dairy farmers, and they were both advocating for the same thing. They were like, "We need this thing to happen," right? And that's what it is. It's like that, every tool needs to be ready to go. Everything that we could possibly do to, like, stop the evils of capitalism is just incredibly important. It's why like, we will report on things like Zoran Mamdani and Zach Polanski, despite being very anti-electoral politics here on Red Planet. It's because it's like, yeah, these things can be a vehicle for social change, and if there are some things that come from these people's campaigns, that they actually enact into policy that make the lives of people better, then hey, guess what? People will have more spare time to organize. So, if we can get like a minor win in, like, policy change that comes to fruition, even if it's just the fucking free buses in New York, that could be crazy. That could be absolutely crazy, because it's like, I don't know if I mentioned it on the show, but like, when I've had criticism for like not being critical enough of Zoran Mamdani, I've often gone with the analogy of like, well, I tell you what, you go up to a black trans woman in New York City and you tell her that voting for fucking Zoran Mamdani makes her a Zionist, or it makes her an evil counter-revolutionary, when she can't afford to get the bus across town to get a fucking HRT, which she also can't afford, but she wants to vote for Zoran Mamdani because he said he's going to make those things available. So, you got to think about fucking real people in this situation. But yeah, like, that's it, right? Like, we have to think about everything, and we have to think about like all the different things that are available to us, which kind of, I don't know, ties up the show nicely, because obviously we're talking about these things that are far away. Think global, act local. The thing that you
Yeah.
should do, listener and viewer, is to go out there and organize. You should go out there and join an organization, not the SWP. Don't join them.
Let's get some, yeah, let's get that as our official, let's get that as our official homework of the episode. We're gonna go out and join not the SWP. Let's say it's like the week one homework of Red Planet again. We're gonna go join a union. If you're employed and you're not in a union for your workplace already, get in that one. If you're in that one, or if you're not employed, join a renters union. If you're not a renter, and you're already in your union, or you're in those ones already, join another org of some kind, and then tell us about it. And just like get out there and get doing stuff, because there's not super relevant stuff we can say unless you're like uh clear to take the shot. There's not really a global like homework someone could do this week. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So that's that. But I hope you enjoyed our musings, and discussion on that. Chat and listeners and viewers, please make sure to support Red Planet on Patreon. It's patreon.com/red_planet. As I said a few minutes ago, we will be having some bonus content on there. We've already got loads of bonus content on there, but particularly we're going to have bonus content relating to our ZAD documentary that me and Sophie went and filmed earlier this year. It should be out by the end of the year, but if you want more informed updates, please head over and give us money. And there's loads of different options, and you can get loads of free, cool goodies as well from actually enjoying the joining the Patreon. You can get some stickers. You can actually buy merch. We've got merch. If you go to mercenarycreative.com, you can find our Red Planet Queer Existence is Resistance tote bags, hoodies, and t-shirts. I got a nice compliment from the t-shirt last night at a party that I was at. And you can get nice compliments too if you wear it out and about. We have a very, very special thing that we do at the end of every episode to people who subscribe to our Sicko tier, which is the highest amount of money that we say that you should spend on the show. So thank you very much to Risk Inverse, you absolute legend. Thank you for remaining our Sicko for the longest. I think that anyone has supported us. But yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you for keeping us going. If you want more Red Planet related stuff, then you can check out our hosts, of which I am one, but also there is another one here, and she's called Sophie. Where can we find more Sophie stuff?
I felt like a bait and switch, like you were gonna plug your own stuff for a second. Um, yeah, I mean, all my links are at linktree.ee/Sophie from Mars. I'll keep my plug short this week. I have gone back to streaming. I'm streaming hopefully weekly, but I'll take some weeks off for sure because I'm still learning what my energy levels are since going through a big life trauma and losing a lot of capacity. Yay! Linktree.ee/ Sophie from Mars. Most important one is my Patreon. You can give me money there or through the tip link there. I also just thought like maybe if people want a serious homework for this one for like geopolitical discussion, it's just to try and keep informed, like learn about some shit that's happening in other countries. It's crazy how narrow everyone's focus has gotten, and people are talking about like the Tommy Robinson march, but they're not talking about like there were Gen Z revolutions in several countries in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, all my stuff's on my link tree. Give me money there. Come watch my stream, watch my videos, all that stuff. Follow my Tumblr if you like. I write a lot of posts. Spend a lot of time posting. Um, Mule, where can people find more of your stuff?
It's linktree.ee/DJ Mule. That's DJMUEL for the listeners. Yeah, I stream Monday to Thursday, 6 p.m. UK time till 11 p.m. UK time, and I do cover mostly geopolitics, obviously with a focus on the UK and things that might be happening in the UK. Unfortunately, we live in this Anglo-centric world, but yeah, just to kind of add on what you were saying, Soph, yeah, if you want to push your boundaries in terms of like what you are learning and how you're getting informed, try and digest some non-English speaking media, because I think like a really like good key to have is like if you're reading something in English, it is going to be 90% of the time biased towards imperialism. It's going to be biased towards capitalism, and I know that you know we might not have that much of a multilingual audience, but think about learning another language. Maybe think about learning Mandarin. Maybe think about learning Spanish. You know, Latin American Spanish. Maybe think about learning you know any kind of language that is kind of outside of the imperial core. Arabic is an interesting one as well. You know, you could do this in various ways, but not Duolingo because that guy's a weird fucking AI pedophile freak. So yeah, that would be my addition to what Sophie was saying. But yeah, I on my streams I cover all manner of things, geopolitics, weird stuff, landlord brain rot. Obviously I'm a housing activist, so when we watch Landlord Brain Rot, it's very much just about yeah, like how fucking weird landlords are and how they make themselves the victim all the time. It's very frustrating, but it's also very cathartic, probably to see me yell at landlords. So that's the kind of stuff that I do. I also got a YouTube channel. You can check out my YouTube content. It's DJ Mule on YouTube, and I'm on TikTok as well. It's DJMU3L on TikTok. And yeah, I'll often just like pick up my phone and just film myself. So if you want like horrible shit audio, shaky cam, like because I'm like fucking I've had a drink the night before and shit like that, like you know, you just subscribe there and you can see all that shit. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and are we here next week? Maybe. So keep an eye on the socials. Red Planet on Twitter, Red Planet on Blue. No, we don't have a Blue Sky. Red Planet on Twitter. You'll know. Just follow the hosts. We'll talk about it. We've also got another guy that you should know about. It's Conquest the Dread. It's Tim. He's not here this week. Please go and follow him. He's also at linktree.ee/dread conquest. Tim does a lot of really, really cool stuff. He's got like a slew of fantastic videos about organizing and protests and all this kind of really, really interesting stuff. He's just got like a really good aesthetic. And he's currently working on Dark RPG, which is a tabletop fantasy game set in a dystopian future, which is really cool. It's got tons of Tim's art in there. He's a great, phenomenal artist. Please go and support him and show him some love. But yes, as I said, we will be back on the next show. Hopefully we'll have a guest. If we don't, we'll have a great discussion, and we will see you there.